When it comes to planning for retirement, it's kind of incredible to think that Social Security is meant to replace 40% of your income. That is it, which is the reason why retirement accounts are becoming so incredibly popular. And putting money in there is an absolute necessity if you ever plan to retire. But we have a multitude of different things that we can invest in, from looking at the IRAs with a traditional IRA and a Roth IRA, 401k plans. Roth 401k plans are now being offered by a lot of employers. Now, for me personally, and I really advise Roth is the way to go. Essentially, with a Roth, you're putting after-tax dollars in there, which means your taxes are paid. Now, depending how long you have until retirement, this can make a big difference when it comes towards retirement. And also at retirement, you don't have to take required minimum distributions or RMDs out of those Roth accounts because the taxes on them are paid. And also the growth factor you see in there is already taxed, meaning you don't have to take the money out at all and you can let it sit there and grow in that nest egg. Now, on the traditional side, you do have to take those RMDs, you have to take money out of there. So essentially, the way that I think of it and the way that I see it is if you're taking immediate tax advantage today, hoping in the future that you're not going to make as much money. And that is kind of the thought between the traditional products, or the reason for those traditional products. Chances are when you get there and you're required to take those distributions, it could be money you already need, but you could actually have a big growth factor over the next 10, 20, 30 years. Where taking money out of a traditional is not going to be as beneficial as you once thought. Now, when we're looking at today's video, we're going to look at 3 reasons why you should not choose that Roth 401k that I recommended for your retirement plan. And this is really something that you have to take in account, because when it comes to those minimum distributions, it can really make a big difference. The reason number 1, you have limited investment choices. Now, for a majority of 401k portfolios that I do see, a lot of them have target date funds. When you break it down, when you look at the historical performance of a lot of target date funds, including the Vanguard target date funds, a lot of times they are underperforming, and they are underperforming by a considerable amount. I actually took my IRA, took it out of the Vanguard target date funds, put it into another account which actually tracks the S&P 500. I did the exact same with the 401k, got rid of all of my target date funds and put them into funds that are growing exponentially as of right now. 23 and now 2024 has been exceptionally well. If I would have left them in the target date funds, they would have grown about 40 to 50% less. So make sure you're doing your research on the investment choices that are offered through wherever your plan is held, and seeing exactly what the benefit is and how you're doing these. Now, of course, a lot of places are only limited to a very few amount of funds, which means it might behoove you, or might be really intuitive, to take your money and invest it somewhere else, starting with an IRA versus that 401k. Now, one thing to remember is you can put a lot more money into a 401k than you can actually put into the IRA plans, regardless of if it's a traditional or Roth. So again, depending on your investment choices, it might be better to max out those IRAs before putting money into the 401ks with those limited choices. And of course, it gets into number 2, the plan fees are very high. Now, there are a lot of plan fees depending on where you are. And again, a lot of the 401k plans I have seen have had this, where the plan fees are high. And then, of course, you have the fund fees. There's quite a few things which, if it's a managed plan, they can get very high. When you look at the cost of index funds in comparison to mutual funds, index funds are infinitely cheaper when it comes to the cost basis, which you could opt for that low cost investment like the index funds, but you could still get hit with the 1.5%. That is the fee for administrating the plan of the 401k through your employer. So you really have to know what you're getting when you're signing up for these. Now, of course, with the fees, just like investment specific fees, they can eat away your returns. When you think about 1%, when you start getting, 10, 20, 30 years down the road, that 1% can have an astronomical impact on the returns that you're getting out of this plan, because the fees are too high. Now, if you're not familiar, if you don't want to do any of your own research, make sure you talk to your 401k provider. Most of them do have financial advisors that are on staff that will answer all of your questions. And number 3, and the absolute biggest reason why I would choose not to invest in a Roth 401k, is there's no employer match. Now, there are a lot of companies, it says 401k plans, when you look at Vanguard, 95% of employers offer retirement plans with some sort of matching contributions. That is right, 95% plans have a portion of there that is matching some contributions. Now, unfortunately, when you look at the actual companies, a majority of people at the company do not enroll in the 401k plans. Even looking at the company that I work with, we have about 80% of employees are enrolled, which means 20% of the employees are not getting a match by any means. Now, if you're part of that unlucky 5% that Vanguard was referring to, it may not be worth investing in that Roth 401k if any of the above circumstances are true, where they have very, very limited funds, or they are really strapped with high fees and there is no employer match. That is the point where you want to start with the Roth IRA. Now, if you're like me, I have a link down below for M1 Finance. You can do your IRA accounts right through there. Makes it incredibly easy, and they're giving a big, big reward. If you're bringing over money, depending on how much you bring, they can actually give you a big bonus on there. Now, of course, again, if you're looking, because you are limited to how much you can put into that Roth IRA, once you max out that Roth IRA, it might be good of you to look back, even if there isn't an employer match, to put money in that Roth 401k. That way you're paying it upfront and you're getting the tax-free dollars. If you're putting it into a traditional brokerage account, the growth on that brokerage account is going to be, of course, subject to capital gains, which means when it comes to tax time, you could be paying a lot more tax than you would be paying in that Roth 401k, which is the reason why you really have to explore and come up with a game plan and an investment strategy for everything that you do have, knowing where it is going to be the most beneficial. Now, of course, you might want to keep some of that retirement savings outside of tax advantage accounts. So what some people will do is they will put a lot of money into the 401ks, not realizing that there is an age requirement before you can actually take money out of there. So you might want to look at different solutions, always keeping that emergency fund liquid, keeping some money possibly in a brokerage account or a high yield savings account. That way, at least you're hedging inflation and you're getting a little bit of money. But like I said earlier, when it comes to Social Security, it is meant to replace 40% of the income, which means that other 60% chunk of income is going to come from these retirement accounts through regular contributions. Now, following the advice of Dave Ramsey, 15% is what you're looking for the contribution, and that does not include the match. Do not take into account anything if you're matched 50 cents on the dollar, 4% like most employers do. Regardless of what the match is, you do not want to worry about that match because you're going to be putting your 15% in, just like you should be doing, and really making a big impact when it comes to retirement. Worst case scenario, you get to retirement and, like a lot of people, have zero savings to retirement. And that is the reason making this channel, financial education, literacy, making sure retirement and investing is easier to understand. So if you like the content, guys, go ahead and subscribe to the channel, and I'll catch you in the next video.